guests watched and whispered among themselves, shifting in their seats, their postures animated with unease. The general turned and bolted up the staircase, leaving panicked shouts and screams in his wake. Panting at the top, he slammed shut the bulletproof door that separated the living areas of the ground floor from the bedrooms of the first and secured the latches. He ran into his bedroom, paying no attention to the banging on the reinforced steel door, and he fell to his knees, his head and arms sinking into the mattress. He turned his head to the side and gulped air. Lifting his chest off the bed, he looked up at the suspended ceiling tiles. He got to his feet and looked around, searching, until his eyes fell on the window. He ran to it and rolled one length of curtain around his forearm and yanked. Nothing. He thrust the fabric upwards. He kept his eyes on the metal rail that held it up and continued yanking in desperation. The supports came away from the wall and the rod came down. He pushed the curtain off the rod, gripped the pole, and looked at it. He turned to the exposed window and looked out of the glass. 2 of his soldiers were outside the compound, standing over the laden tray of a crouched groundnut hawker. He turned away from the window and returned to the king-size bed. He climbed onto the mattress, stepping wide from foot to foot for balance. Looking at the ceiling, he gripped the base of the rod in both hands, steadied himself, and jabbed up at the tiles. His feet wobbled on the mattress. He continued jabbing. The first square broke. He ducked at the falling debris as bricks of dollar notes, still sealed in plastic, came falling. He moved on to another square. Bundles of $100 notes gathered at his feet, where his weight created depressions in the mattress. He threw the rod to the ground and climbed down from the bed. He gathered the edges of the duvet and dragged the bundle, laden with cash, into the bathroom. He emptied the money into the bathtub, discarded the duvet onto the ground, and stood to wipe his face. He cocked his ear to the window. Sirens. He climbed onto the closed lid of the toilet bowl and looked out the window. A van with flashing lights was parked in front of his gate. His soldiers were squaring up to a group of people in red vests, some of them armed with bullpup firearms. He rushed back to the bathtub, filled with bricks of dollars, and knelt. Fumbling in his pocket, he retrieved a plastic lighter. His packet of consulate menthols fell to the ground. He struck the lighter. Tiny sparks shot out. He looked at it. It still had fluid. He shook it and tried again, his fingers shaking. He looked at his sweaty palms. He wiped them on his clothes and tried again. Still no fire. He whimpered, glancing at the window. He tried again and again. He shook the lighter and struck it. The tiny tongue of flame flickered and steadied. He held the fire to the edge of a brick. The plastic melted back and the notes darkened, turned black, and smoke rose into the air. He kept the lighter going as he tore notes free and set them alight. He placed the burning edges on the heap. His sweaty face crumpled with frustration. He got to his feet, rushed to his wife's dressing table in the bedroom, and scanned the colorful cluster of cans, bottles, containers, and candles. He picked up the largest can and shook it. He pulled the lid off and pressed. A white jet of choking hairspray coated the mirror over the dressing table. He ran back to the bathroom. He struck the lighter. It worked. He held the flame close to the cash and sprayed the aerosol at it. The orange jet of fire set the dollars alight. He moved his improvised flamethrower over the rest of the money. Black smoke rose from the bathtub. The fumes of plastic and paper burning peppered his eyes. He collapsed onto his bum, back against the wall, one leg stretched out, one arm on the knee of a bent leg, and watched the money burn. As the flames grew and tiny orange specks spiraled into the air, his shoulders began to shudder, and tears rolled down his sweat-covered cheeks. Outside, an officer of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission pointed up at the building. On the first floor, smoke was seeping out from under the roof above a window and curling up the tiles. In seconds, flames appeared in the window and an entire section of the roof was on fire. The fire was spreading fast. Guests, relatives, and the entire household were out in the compound, a number of them holding back the general's wife, her eyes on the burning building as she kept screaming, "My husband is still inside! My husband is still inside!"